So I'm gonna do something I've never done before. I'm gonna do a movie review. Netflix has a lot of movies on it now, and I'm just kind of working my way through it. I'm a real big horror fan. If you've ever gamed with me, I like horror. Give me original Jason, original Freddy, Mike Myers to a degree, but that wasn't one of my favorite franchises. So I'm going through the horror section, and it's under thriller rather than horror. So I'm like, okay, thriller. We're a few scares. We're gonna be dealing more with an individual rather than or even as an ensemble cast, because you have all these characters in the beginning where you're showing who they are. Well, 2 or 3, but we're gonna put that off aside real quick. So we start going through the movie, and you realize very early in the movie, and by the way, spoilers, that she's probably depressed. That the lead, played by Whitney Able, I think it is probably a little depressed. But we don't even get to see that part of her before the director has a sex scene thrown in right at the beginning with 2 lesbians. I love me some girl on girl action, but that's a very awkward place to put a scene like that. Right at the beginning, before anything else can happen. Before you know the characters, you have them kissing and hugging on each other. And that's pretty much all that happens in it too. There's a couple kisses, there's a couple hugs, and one girl doesn't look like she's into it. There we go. So, the problem becomes very evident, is that it was meant to be a slow burn psychological suspense movie. Not a thriller. Not a horror movie. A suspense movie. And the way we know that is the way we focus on the main character. Now, for about, I think the runtime is like 93 minutes or something like that, or 95 minutes. For the majority of the film, we're looking at just the main character, just the lead, and how you deal with being in the total darkness in a New York blackout. And that's where it gets boring. Because you see her do all these things to relax herself. She does yoga, which she's apparently a yoga teacher. Earlier in the movie, it shows it. But you have all these little things coming up. You have those little awkward moments where a guy doesn't realize the woman he's hitting on is a lesbian. Which was kind of a neat moment. And then all of a sudden, the jealousy builds up because she goes and she tries to see her girlfriend. And her girlfriend is a photographer doing her job. It's like, oh my, she must be cheating on me, so I'm going to go out and find a guy to sleep with. And then the rest of the movie, once she gets home, has 2 big things happen. And these aren't even like big spoilers. The guy shows up with her ID, because either she left it behind or whatever. I couldn't have been bothered to pay attention to it the entire time. It was that boring. The second part was all of a sudden someone starts shaking on the door handle trying to open it up. Now, this is a really interesting moment. Because it's New York, it's a blackout. Her friend, or her roommate, not even her roommate, it's like a neighbor, has already broken in once to use the restroom. Like literally. Came in either through the window, through the front door. It doesn't say. The movie doesn't tell you. And after that, the door starts shaking and someone's at the door and she's screaming at the door. All this slow build. We're coming up to that moment where we're supposed to find out if she's if it's in her head or if it's not. This is a moment of triumph. This is what makes slow burn psychological suspense movies work. And she runs out the window. Kudos. That works in a horror movie, not in a suspense movie. So she runs out the door. Or, sorry, not out the door, out the window. She goes down and she starts working her way down the fire escape using a camera because, cell phones aren't a big thing and, it doesn't have that big old backlight like we have now today. She's making her way down the fire escape. One of her neighbors is hanging out the window because I'm assuming he's hot. So she tries to make her way back upstairs. She sees that neighbor who broke in earlier on a fire escape a couple floors up. She goes into the window. Someone walks behind her and she kills her. Or we assume that she kills her because we see the body we hear a body hit the floor and we see a hand crumpled up. And this is where, for all of Whitney's acting throughout the entire movie, which if I liked the movie, it might have made more sense to me. Her cry face, her I've done something terrible face is horrible because it sounds like she's about to laugh. And my first thought was, is this the best take we got off of her? But she's smoking a cigarette and she's thinking about, oh my god, what have I done? And it cuts back into the hand. You see this little hand curled up like this on the floor with black fingernail polish. So you assume it's the girlfriend. And this is the problem. Somehow she got into the apartment. And this is where I really got bothered with the movie. Because everything up to here is a nice, good, slow burn suspense movie. Really is. Is it in her head? Is it not in her head? If someone knocks and's banging on my door, and I'm screaming, hey, who's out there? My friends? The people who love me? And my acquaintances will normally answer something like, hey, it's me, asshole, let me in. I go, oh, it's just my friend, blah, 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 come on in. And you see where the problem is in the movie. It's when you get up to that point where the suspense is going to pay off and you're going to find out what's going on. Is it in her head or not? If my wife were to do that, be banging on the door trying to get me to let her in, and I asked her if it was her outside the door, who's out there? She's going to answer. She's going to respond. I'm sure the few, 8, 9 subscribers I have right now at the time of this recording, the same thing's going to happen. You're going to be knocking and banging on my door. Hey, hey, who is it? I'm this person. Oh, well, go away. I don't know if I can trust you right now. End of subject. You're going to leave, or you're going to say, come on, man, I just need to come in. It's dark out here. Whatever. And that's the whole problem with the movie. Everything else, I understand. I get it. It's very intellectual in the way that it pursued the movie, the way that it pursued everything about it. It is good for those parts. But with the slow burn psychological thriller, it all matters at the ending. The ending is what matters. Is this person crazy? Are they not? Are they just building everything up in their head because they can't understand what's going on around them? Are they locked up in a mental institution and we just don't know it? Don't know. And that's the problem. Is the world is grounded in reality. And as we see her go through her routine of trying to keep herself relatively sane, we start seeing these flashbacks, and based off the flashbacks, you can assume she tried to commit suicide, her girlfriend saved her, and because her girlfriend saved her, in her mind, she probably thinks that her girlfriend's only with her out of obligation. And that works. That works for me. I get that. The problem is, if her girlfriend loves her, and it is not just trying to be a jump scare dick, when she's screaming at the door to go away, she's going to say, hey, it's me. And that's where the movie fails. The burn, the conclusion does not end it well. And I started looking into reviews about this movie before I started to record this. I didn't even think I was going to record a horror movie review ever. But this one came up. Everything works to that point. The people who do horror movie reviews on a regular basis will say this often. jump scares only happen when those people are basically treated like dicks. I have a few friends who, if we were out in public and it was getting a little spooky, would jump scare me. That's who they are. My wife probably wouldn't. And that's where we get to this point of there's a big giant hole in this movie. Her girlfriend comes home. She must have found her keys because she let herself in. And she walks into the, I think it's the kitchen where she was at. And all of a sudden her first reaction is thunk with the hammer. That, it doesn't work for me. I don't know many people who would intentionally jump scare another person unless they're dicks. And that's where the movie fails. Because there's a point where you could have said this movie is over. It's all in her head. You could have done the sunrise the same damn way. And you would have been a satisfying movie. You could have had the lights come back on, or cut away to a couple weeks later, or Monday morning when her girlfriend was supposed to be back home, and had that satisfied that way. But no. You had to go this stupid route. Oh my god, we're going to open with the lesbian sex scene, and we're going to end with one of them killing the other one. No, it doesn't work. If you want to view it as just a piece of indie artwork, it still doesn't work. Because that one big hole in it for me kills the entire movie. Kills everything in that movie up to that point. Because in a situation like that, because this was supposed to take place in 2003 during the New York blackout, you see this very specific problem of she would have said who she was given the circumstances. And we can assume she didn't make it out of the city because of the blackout. That's fine. But when she's knocking on the door and her girlfriend's freaking out, she's not going to be a jump scare dick. No. I don't see it happening. I don't see it being realistic. And that's where suspense is different than horror. That's where suspense is different than thrillers. Suspense is normally grounded heavily in reality. You are playing off of the mental tricks of, could this happen? Is this going to happen? But in this case, no. I don't see that character. And you don't get to see a lot about her, but I don't see that character suddenly changing into another whole different person just to sneak up on someone in the middle of the dark. No. It's unlikely. And it's, at best, it's a drama. It's just not a good, it's not a good thriller, it's not a good suspense movie. You might be able to call it a drama, but even then, you don't have any real drama developing because for the majority of the movie, she's by herself. She doesn't have someone playing off of this. There's a lot of quiet in the movie. And we're supposed to feel scared because of the soundtrack and not because of what's going on. The banging on the door, that kills it for me. So, I wouldn't recommend the movie. I will say that I may do more of these if this gets popular. Watch a really bad horror movie and then, because I found this under the horror/thriller section on Netflix. And just review them because some of these movies are horrible. Like, really, really bad. The Invitation, I may do next. I watched that movie and it was garbage. It really was. But I'm the Cool Imp, Justin, many others, unseemly names. You guys have a great night.